Hello and welcome to this week's video on My Hero Academia. This week I'm reviewing episode 5 of volume 4 of Vigilantes. You know how this works by now. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below and you will be read out in a future video. But not next week's video, for reasons which will be revealed later on. Ooh, a little bit of a tease for you there. Be sure to support your local small broadcaster today by doing all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell and do all that kind of malarkey. Support your local small broadcaster today. It will do them a power of good. And a big thank you to all our subscribers, old and new. We may have just broke 100 subscribers. I really can't tell yet because my ticker tape thing hasn't updated yet. Maybe we have and it's just delayed. Maybe we haven't and we've lost one. I really don't know. My analytics says we've gained one, but it's not showing yet. So maybe we gained one, lost one. I don't know. But our big goal for the moment is to break 105 subscribers. If we do, then I will be doing a review of the second My Hero Academia movie, as that is the only one that I've not reviewed yet. But between then and now, let us get on to the review itself. And we start off, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives. This week we have an episode which really does get straight into the action. Yes, there are some silly, goofy, gaggy moments in the episode itself, but they're pushed to the second half of it. But I will admit that as whilst I did enjoy the action within this episode, it did kind of just stop. But that's a point we'll get to later. I will admit that this might be a shorter review from me, mostly due to the fact that this episode was rather fast-paced, and there's not really all that much to talk about at this point. I mean, there is the thing, which we'll be discussing in the second half of this episode. The first half of this episode, of course, was focused on all the stuff with Knuckleduster and Bee, and the second half being around the concert. We'll be just talking about the stuff with Knuckleduster and Bee later on, but between then and now, we talk about what happened at the concert. When last we left our heroes, they were left in the dark, both figuratively and literally. After a villain attack at the supermarket, it was sent into total darkness. Honestly, this would be the prime time to try and snag some free ice cream, but hey-ho, I guess that no one's really thinking about that yet. To be fair to them, they've not resorted to looting, which kind of says something about the morality of certain people, but hey-ho, diddly-do, we move on. Here we have all our heroes, or at least a large portion of our cast, gathered together in one place. Everything's gone dark, everything's getting strange, everything's getting tense, everything's getting mysterious, and they're just stood there doing nothing. I mean, on the one hand, on a literal level, you can understand them doing this. Unless they're planning to do this concert unplugged, they're going to have to wait for the power to come back on. But at the same time, it's really rather annoying that our protagonists aren't really being all that proactive at the moment. I mean, here we have a mix of pro-heroes and vigilantes, and not any of them seem to have any form of agency right now. Like, I get the idea that Popstep and Crawler aren't exactly diving off to investigate what's been going on, because that itself might look a tad conspicuous, but no one else is really doing anything either. Midnight and Present Mike are just standing there, on call. They're not evacuating the crowd, they're not trying to calm them down, they're not even calling this in. It's not like they're getting onto the phone saying, oh yeah, something really weird has happened at that whole gig at the supermarket, we might need some more support. I mean, hell, they get a call from Eraserhead, and Midnight didn't even seem to ask where he was. Like, she calls him and he says, yeah, there's some kind of weird villain attack thing going down. And she didn't think to ask, yeah, when did this happen? Was it in the past 5 minutes or so? Where are you? Oh, you're just outside? Wow, maybe these events are connected. Maybe we should call that in and get some more heroes in to help solve this problem. They're not. They're all just stood there. They're all just stood there doing nothing, building up for what we know what's going to happen next with all of this, which is end up going Popstep doing her singing stuff. Maybe, hopefully, we really don't know. There's a part of me that's worried this is going to end up kind of blue-balling us to a certain extent, but we'll discuss that later on. There isn't really much going on here, apart from a little bit of banter and a few gags. Again, everyone's just stood backstage, waiting for the lights to go on. We do get a little bit where Crawler does duck out to don his vigilante gear so he can come back with Popstep's portable microphone thing, which is a cute moment, though I was expecting to get a quick, hey look guys, it's Crawler Man! Just a little gag like that, but we don't get it, so I suppose seeing as there's not really much to talk about in the second half of it, because not a whole lot of stuff happened, we might as well just cut straight to the main course and talk about the core of this particular episode and the core of the volume itself, which is the current situation with Knuckleduster and Bee. I mean, this is still very early days into their major confrontation. We're not going to get a whole lot onto it for the remainder of this volume. This is just more or less confirming things that we already knew, or, you know, just kind of actually revealing it to us, so that's a sore point for a whole other time. I will admit, though, just nipping back for one moment to talk about the stuff in the second half, all that stuff could have been worse, because we do get some relationship development between Crawler and Popstep, with the whole thing of him ducking out to get her microphone thing. Like, that's cute, that's fun, that's at least doing something. Captain Celebrity does a chance to do something useful, so we're seeing some character development in that moment, even if it feels far too slight for what I was hoping for with all of this. But much like with the fight with Knuckleduster and Bee, we're just on the very cusp of all of this kicking off. We're not quite very deep into the whole action of it yet. We're still on the peripheral of it, still on the introduction, all of it. I want to see all this kicking off, though. I want to see all this going somewhere next week, in the next one. Well, it won't be next week from where I'm sat, but hey-ho, I'll discuss that later on. Ooh. With all that said, we do have to talk about the stuff to do with Bee and Knuckleduster and their big confrontation. Their final confrontation, and the final confirmation that Bee is Knuckleduster's daughter. Kind of. The implication that we're getting here is that the girl we know as Bee is actually the host for something. Or is possessed by something, or is hypnotized. She might be a host to a parasite, or have a worm in her brain, or in this case, a bee in her brain. She's possessed in some form or another, and basically it's a villain that's in the body of a teenage girl, which... no, thank you. But of course, we have Knuckleduster's grand solution to all this. How is he going to get this bastard out of his daughter's body? He's going to tase the fuck out of them. He's got himself a makeshift taser and he's going to electrocute them to get them out. Which I suppose indicates it must be some kind of parasite or something, which means there's going to be some gross, gooey stuff later on with him pulling the parasite out, maybe? Or he's just literally going to beat the devil out of her. We'll soon see. I mean, I get it. It makes sense from a certain point of view, though it does feel like it might be incredibly dangerous. There he is with his taser that he looks like he's knocked together with spare parts from B&Q, and he's just gonna go at it and hope it works. Because it's Knuckleduster, and his solution to everything is just to punch the hell out of it. I will admit that I did enjoy this fight for what we got of it. It was very short, for obvious reasons. This is, much like with the stuff with the backstage and performance stuff, just the start of all of this. We're just getting the opening gambit, the opening salvo. And to be honest, ending it in only half of an episode would be bloody anticlimactic. So we're going to end up getting a little bit of a to and fro over the next few episodes, I should say, because I don't know how long this is going to last. And it's going to be a typical kind of thing, bashing back and forth. There's going to be a moment where it looks like Knuckleduster isn't going to get the win, then he does get the win, then there's going to be some gross, nasty body horror stuff, because that's what Vigilante really seems to like adding into it, and we go from there. I will say that it was nice to see a different side to Bee's power than just sending bees out to inject people with trigger, which is neat. I mean, a character like this, how they deal with a fight like this is interesting, because Bee is more of a cloak and dagger kind of villain. They hide in the background, they look inconspicuous, they just look like your average typical schoolgirl, and then they just send out the bees, and then things happen from there. She's not really one for close combat, and yet here she is, who's going up against someone whose name pretty much gives you a bit of a clue that he's going to be all close combat all the time. She has bomb bees! Bees with bombs! If she had bees with milk, would they be milk bees? No, there is something that did kind of cross my mind with that whole sequence where she's sending out the bomb bees, which is how much is the daughter influencing this fight? Because during that fight we have the revelation that only one of those bomb bees actually had real explosives in them. The rest of them were just kind of like small firecracker kind of stuff. So is the daughter trying to hold back and regain some sense of control, pulling the punches, so to speak, of the villain side of her? We don't really know yet. Or it may just be a limitation of the quirk. Maybe for more complex chemicals or more specific things, they need more time to put it together. With that said, it isn't all that hard to make an explosive if you know how to. Again, we are still only in the opening stages of this fight, and in the here and now, it does feel like a game of keep away, or tag as he puts it. Now, for the benefits of you, those of you living in the south of England, tag is what the rest of the world calls tig. But in any case, we are in the opening salvos of it, we're in the opening gambit of it. I enjoy how manic and insane both Knuckleduster and Bee look in this sequence. Just the sheer deranged look on their faces. Bee looks positively feral and Knuckleduster looks positively insane. These two forces are going to clash with each other and have the mother of all fights, one of the big things we really want to see happen. Hopefully, eventually. Again, we're very early into this, and we're also balancing the stuff with the performance itself. How all this comes together, I really don't know yet, but we'll soon see how it all goes. I just want to see more of it because, let's be honest, as much fun as the opening half of this episode was, like I said earlier on, it did kind of just stop. And with that in mind, let's start to pivot into the negatives. And we'll start out by just addressing a point I raised last week, which is that it really does feel like Eraserhead has stolen Popstep's thunder dealing with the eel guy. No pun intended, given that he has electric powers as well. Like, in this episode, we see that he kind of has just taken them out right now. He's tied them up, and there's no other real villains knocking about, so they're just down and out, I suppose. Maybe they will get up again and start causing a rumpus. I hope so. I really do hope so, because it feels as though we've kind of swerved what could have been an interesting plot point. Because right now, nothing says I have confidence in this series and its cast. They're bringing in a character from a more popular series to sort things out. It feels like they kind of are so desperate for a link to the main series to just say, hi guys, here's a thing that you know, here's a thing that you like, that they're kind of doing Popstep a disservice. Like I said previously, I think that Popstep should be the one to take down this eel villain. I have a strong feeling that she will do in the end, because it makes sense with her character, because the eel monster kind of represents the anxiety and the fear that she has for herself, and that darker side of fame. She's mentioned that we've seen how certain people have a kind of gross opinion of her, and that's how is that better represented than some weird, gross-looking, slimy eel monster? Maybe this will happen. Maybe this will kick off. There's a part of me in the back of my brain that's thinking, well, what's probably going to happen here is Popstep's going to start singing, and that'll draw the attention of the eel monster guy, and he'll rise out of the slime and the darkness like the main character from a 1980s frat house comedy movie. He'll do stuff that's just as creepy and weird as perverted as some of the things they want to do, which feels like that will be the kind of twist and complication that we'll get. She'll start singing, the crowd will start loving it, then he'll go, Popstep, boobies, and he'll lunge up into the sky and he'll jump up, and then she'll have to fight him or reach through to him and reach the poor little sub that's trapped inside of there and bring them back. Maybe. That was the thing I think they should do. But again, I've got this sinking suspicion that it's just going to be Eraserhead just sat there with this monster tied up, and then Popstep's just going to get the singing bit, which would be fine, it'll be cute, but I don't really think it has the impact of her literally beating her anxiety to death, or nearly to death as it were. The other thing I have with an issue with this episode is the fact it really does feel like a tale of two halves. I really don't know how to put this, but the fact that we have these two halves going against each other, it feels like they're robbing oxygen from one another. Because if you're really into the stuff with Knuckleduster and Bee, you want to see where that's going. So when they start pivoting back to Popstep and that, it kind of feels as though you're having your attention robbed. You're going to something that you're really into and you're really like, oh, I want to see where this goes. And all of a sudden, hey everyone, so this whole power outage thing's a bit of a bitch, isn't it? Yeah, and that's kind of it. Or alternatively, you can kind of take or leave the stuff with Knuckleduster and Bee, but you really are into the stuff with Popstep, and you want to see how she's going to overcome her anxiety and her internal weaknesses. But you have to do with the daddy-daughter drama stuff in the first half, and then when it actually get to that, again, it's just people stood around doing not a whole lot. I think that maybe the issue for me with this is more of a pacing thing. Like, that first half really just flies right by to the point that it almost feels like it doesn't feel the sides, it touches the sides, so to speak. Whereas the second half of it, kind of drags a little bit, because there's not really a whole lot of much really going on. But we'll see about that. I think this is just going to be the thing for this whole mini arc going forward. We're going to see these two paths knocking together a little bit. Then eventually we might well end up getting a crossing over of the streams, like the two groups end up merging once again for the big final confrontation. We'll soon see about that, but we'll just say for here and now, as we now get into the overview, I did enjoy this episode, though it does feel like a lot of setup again, but what we do get, certainly with the stuff with Knuckleduster and Bee, really is great. I really do think that is great, and I want to see how they don't go further with that. It is setting up and teasing stuff, which will no doubt be revealed in the next few episodes of stuff, or so. But the stuff with Popstep and them being behind the stage waiting for the gig to start, not really much happening there, but we'll see how that all goes. With all that said and done, let us get into Comment Corner! Our first comment comes from Big X1 once again, who says, I'm happy to see we're starting to get into some action again. I think I can guess what the Christmas video is going to be. Ooh, more on that in a little bit, few details further on, but, you know, it is good to see how things, particularly with the previous episode and now, are really starting to kick off. Like, I'm really enjoying the fact that things are starting to move on now. And that's not to say that I wasn't enjoying the goofier, knockabout banter stuff, but I will say in comparison to last season, or the last volume, it's not been quite as strong for me, but what we have had has been fun. Next up, we have Sergeant Gunnery, who says, congrats on over 100 subscribers, man. Thank you, and I don't know, again, at the time of recording this, whether I have broken 100 subscribers yet. My ticker tape thing said that I've gained a subscriber, but I've not gone over 100. Now I've looked at it again, and now it's just saying I've not gained any. I really don't know. So, hey, how about just everyone like and subscribe to the video right now? If you've not subscribed, subscribe now. You needn't watch the channel ever again. Just subscribe or do me a power of good. Okay, so now it's time for some channel news, and this isn't scripted, so I'll try to keep this as concise as possible, but as I've been alluding to over the course of this video, this is going to be the last My Hero Academia Vigilantes video of the year. I will be returning with more videos on this subject matter in the new year. As such, any comments that you leave on this video will not be read out in the next video, as the next video has already been recorded, and it's going to be our Christmas special. If you've been around this channel long enough, you can kind of guess what the Christmas video is going to be, and then we'll be having a kind of New Year's special. It will be going out just before New Year's Eve itself, which will of course be My Hero Academia related, but will not be related to My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I'm just doing this because it's the festive period. I want to do something a little more fun and wacky and crazy, and I will be honest with you, I've been doing videos now every week now for pretty much the past 14 going on 15 months, and I need to take a little bit of break from it. I'm starting to go a little bit crazy, starting to get a little bit stressed out with it, so we're just taking things and just putting to one side for a little bit now. Again, there will be more videos on My Hero Academia Vigilantes in the new year, as well as more videos on My Hero Academia when that series comes back. I might cover Dragon Ball Daima when that comes out, as well as any other TV shows and such that come out over the next year or so, if I feel as though there's enough content to talk about a video with them. But anyway, between then and now, I just want to say that if you don't join us for the next couple of fancy, Christmassy, festive videos, just a big thank you to everyone who's been watching, liking, subscribing these videos over the past year. It has been the most successful year that I've had on this channel thus far, and I've gained around 35, 36 subscribers in total. It would be great to get even more than that. It would be great to break 30 to 105 by the end of the year, but hey, we'll see how we all go with that. But anyway, thank you all for watching, thank you all for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!